And the children who are born and raised in this country, those 5 million American Muslims who identified 5 to 6, 7 million people of this country who identify themselves as American Muslims and add beauty to the already beautiful and diversified American social fabric, and believe in this country and love this country and work and contribute positively every single day to the growth and prosperity of this great land. But when their children who are defenseless, 10 years old and 11 years old, when they go to schools, they get taunted, they get called names, they get to be labeled, and those children are absolutely defenseless. They don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. What is going on in the world? They go to schools to learn, they go they go to the market to shop. And those are also the unknown victims of all these things that happen, the tragedies that happen, that sometimes unfortunately get exploited for political reasons or get exploited for whatever other reasons. While it is the time not just to mourn the loss of innocent lives, but also to ensure that the other side doesn't really enfranchise, and people end up grow up with psychological scars and political scars and being defamed and slandered and taunted and all these things that happen. It's just not one way like this. And the American Muslim community, while it has been always, obviously stands for what is right, and right is obviously, Islam is by definition a non-violent faith. But at the same time, we all have to come together and figure out, obviously, I was called today by the AJC and I told them that. I mean, I am so frustrated of every time something like that happens, we say, that does not represent our faith. Violence is the language of the inarticulate. Islam is a non-violent faith. But the problem with that is, while these things may increase, we really need to worry about the children. American Muslim children who are going to schools and who are being victimized and their innocence robbed from them because some ignorance, just like on many sides their ignorance, go and taunt them and do all these things to them and slander them and put. There are so many. I can tell you, I can sit and talk to you about for hours about kids who come and parents who come and talk to me for hours every day and every night about their children suffering from these psychological things because they don't know how to face them. You send your children to school and they're defenseless. And here, and that's why again it requires us. So I'm thinking again, we're launching the Madina Institute is launching Center for Nonviolence and Peace Studies, where we're going to give counseling to families because we're having a need for this. To families who have children who are scarred because of these things, and they're innocent. They're totally innocent. They have nothing. They don't even understand what do you mean violence, what do you mean people killing people, what do you mean all these things. It's important that while we understand that, you know, the way that sometimes things are presented, we actually need to understand also what we have to do towards our community here as part of this great country, and also what we can do as far as raising awareness with our fellow Americans of different faith systems. So you don't end up having, you know, the Egyptians in the land of Pharaoh were also, in a sense, fooled, and they didn't know, they thought Moses was against them. And also, obviously, the Israelites were. I'm not trying to compare to say that here this is Pharaoh or not Pharaoh. I'm just trying to say, in general, how these things are. I believe in the process in this country, and this country is a country of institutions. And there's no better country, or I would say this is amongst the best countries in the world to be Muslim, and to be anything else, because it affords you the freedom to practice your faith and do whatever you want to do freely. And this is the great thing about this country. And if you look at all these things, life, liberty, justice, the pursuit of happiness, this is almost straight out of the Quran. But this is also a responsibility for us also to worry about. This is something that we need to do for our own community, to make sure that the children and the women and the elderly that go to the supermarkets or they go out and all these things are not harassed and not taunted and not terrorized. Not terrorized. Terrorized intellectually and terrorized verbally and terrorized by looks. And also we can't blame the others who are ignorant, because we can't blame them in a sense, you know, why don't you go read about Islam? You know, how many of us go and read about Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity and Judaism and all these things? But it's our mission to sort of go and say it. Whenever we can, we need to go and say these things. And at the same time, people are worried about their safety. People are worried about their security. People are worried about their homes. People are worried about their children. This is the fact that the American Muslim community is living under. Every time something like this happens. But again, that's a call for action. That's not a call to remain silent. That's a call to speak out. It's a call to identify those, if any, obviously, who actually start harboring strange ideas. Because these things don't just harm them, they harm everybody. We're all in the same ship. Your neighbor is good, you're good. It doesn't matter who your neighbor is. But if your neighborhood is bad, then your house is also going down. Regardless who lives in that neighborhood. And this is what Islam teaches us as well. If your neighbor is good, you're good. And that's why we have to take actions. And that's why we have to be present. And that's why you can't waver. You can't be intimidated. You have to stand. Because if you don't, what else will you do? So, the people who carry out these things, those are the true pharaohs. And the people who carry out these things, we should not let them terrorize us. The pharaohs of today who carry out all these violent things and all that stuff, or intellectual violence, or intellectual terrorism, not just actual terrorism, we should not let them intimidate us. And we need to stand our ground and do what we need to do, because this is who we are and this is what we do. So I just want to share these things with you. Allah bless you. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.